Welcome back in the place to be with the CBDC Asset Group. Thank you for being a part of the group. Today we got the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, talking to Brock Pierce, the founder of Tether. That's USDT. Speaking on how Tether is committing bold fraud. To those of you that don't know, they did have a $1.4 trillion lawsuit that they recently just settled. Think of the implications if Tether was to fail. Would that mean that Bitcoin would fail? At worst, there's a lack of transparency at Tether. They once claimed to have a 1-to-1 holding on reserve currency, the US dollar, for each token that they created. Come to find out, their holdings were only fractional. Here we can see that they settled the case with the state of New York for $18.5 million, from 1.4 trillion to 18.5 million. What do you guys think? Do you think Tether's a scam? Let me know in the comments.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Okay, so let me just be frank with you here. I think Tether was heavily manipulated and was the cause of Bitcoin rising to an unrealistic number of 20,000 because they were actually, I don't know how long you've not been involved with Tether, but I think there was massive fraud in Tether, and Tether was being artificially manipulated. They were issuing phony Tether because there is no transparency in Tether. That's the problem, is they were issuing Tether in whenever it was needed out of thin air. It was not backed by dollars, and I think it's under investigation right now by the U.S. Attorney's Office there's a massive fraud in Tether and it was directly related to causing Bitcoin to rise to 20,000 because all of a sudden whenever Tether was needed, it just magically appeared in massive quantities to offset selling pressure in Bitcoin. So to me, Tether was a disaster because Tether caused Bitcoin to rise up to a level it should have never been at, causing people to lose vast sums of money, enrich others. And on the China front with the digital yuan, I think the most dangerous thing in the world is a cryptocurrency managed by China, where a social credit score can literally, we don't like you, there goes your cryptocurrency right out of your wallet in the instant of a stroke. China said that I think I had Beatles on my podcast last week, and you know him, right? Great guy. And he said crypto can either be the greatest savior of the world or the biggest disaster ever in the wrong hands. Because once you have a cryptocurrency and people are on that, what's to stop the Chinese government from saying, you're a bad actor, you said this, we're going to take back your currency in a stroke now, and everything can be done literally in a microsecond, and you have no way. There's no running, no hiding now, because there's total transparency in blockchain for one guy, the central government now. So a central government-backed blockchain in the wrong hands is an utter disaster. So yeah, maybe people that are desperate in Venezuela will use a digital yuan. I don't think anyone else in their right mind would ever use a digital yuan when every single person that lives in China is desperately trying to get their money out of China into dollars right now, because no one wants Chinese yuan there because the government can take it from you at any moment. There's all these businesses around the world that are all structured on how to launder money out of China through phony real estate deals, buying second houses, third house. I know, I see them all over the world because people are desperate to get their money out of China. So to me, a digital yuan who would use it? Venezuela? I don't know. What are your thoughts on the one on Tether? Is that wrong what I said about Tether? It was not artificially manipulated?
So I was one of the founders of Tether in 2014. In 2015, me and my partners owned 60% of the business. We sold that 60% for essentially nothing to our minority partners. So I've had no formal involvement in the business. And during my tenure, we were completely transparent because that was the original design that I
Same as Beatles. I get it. I'm not blaming you. I'm saying what happened after you left, though, after you sold it.
Just making sure to clarify that. And so I create a lot of things. I start a lot of businesses. Think of them like children. They eventually turn 18 and they do what they do. Sometimes I'm really happy with the things that I've helped create. And I'm like, in approval and saying, good job, everyone. You have the autonomy to operate. And sometimes I'm shaking my head going, oh, what have you done? What are you thinking?
Me too, buddy. I get it.
I have a lot of mixed feelings around how Tether has been managed going forward. I think the lack of transparency in an industry that is fundamentally philosophically built around this concept of transparency. And so what they did is instead of being one-to-one backed, they loaned themselves, they borrowed money from Tether to one of their
buy more Tether. I get it.
Without notifying anyone. And I think that was a huge, I disagree with what was done there. But I think at its lowest point, it was roughly 70% backed. 70% backed is better than anything that you'd see in the banking system, right?
But with the banking system, it's fractional. Tether was supposed to be one-to-one. That's the point.
I agree with that. I agree. That was the original design was one-to-one. There's no fractional reserve anything. So I completely disagree with the decision, but it's not as bad. And the problem there was transparency, not committing to what had been communicated to everyone. And had they said, we're going to evolve Tether into a fractional reserve system that's going to be 2-to-1, that would be a different thing. The fact that,
but it was being specifically used to manipulate Bitcoin, right?
Then the second point was, in terms of the manipulation, I've not seen anything that makes me certain that that is true, but I believe it's certainly possible. We don't have enough visibility in terms of what's happening on the exchanges, who the users are, who's moving markets. And so I can't say with any degree of certainty. I hope that they were not involved in anything that manipulated markets, but I can't say whether or not they did. And I hope.
Yeah, I get it. I understand that.
If that turns out to be true, I will be, definitely going, what did you do again? Mistake after mistake.
Jordan, we're just talking about Tether. And I wonder, do you smell a scam in Tether?
I've been saying that since 2017, that I thought there was a big problem with Tether, and I was shocked that nothing ever came of it because I think back in 2017 there was a thesis that it seemed to be magically creating itself at those times when it was needed most, when people were trying to liquidate Bitcoin. And I was getting it all third hand, so I have no direct evidence, but I'm saying it seemed like a pretty convenient thing that the supply of Tether expanded when it was needed to expand and so forth. And then when I heard they settled something, civilly, and I was like, wow, how'd they get away with that? Like, that's just sort of not the sort of thing that you would settle civilly. So it's a pretty serious allegation. Listen, I'm a crypto bull. You're right, long term. I think the sooner that massive regulation comes into the market, the better it is for Bitcoin, stable coins, and everything else. I think people are scared of regulation. They shouldn't be. If you look at back in history of any market that was like nascent, whether it was the junk bond market, everyone said, oh no, the regulators are coming in. The market got much bigger. So I think it's a good thing. And the sooner that happens, things like Tether being printed when it shouldn't be printed will probably become a lot less common, and all the other things you're seeing happening with a lot of the pump and dumps will vanish as well, and that will make, I think, crypto far more viable for the mainstream and the institutions.
So speaking of scams, you say you've been onto Tether for a while. What are some other scams in the crypto world that you think people should be aware of that may not be yet?
There's so many. It's really sad because I really believe that there's some great things out there, right? I mean, really, I'm a believer in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so forth. And, who wins the day, who knows, right? But you have these, let me just call them what they are, all these shit coins out there. And they're literally every single day, there's new ones being printed, and they're simply designed to separate people from their money. They're not legitimate, and they're being hustled, whether it's on Telegram. It used to be hustled a lot on TikTok, and they got shut down, which is a good thing. And they're just, they name a day, name a shitcoin, right? And there's so many of them. And what happens is there's a lot of influencers out there that have been promoting them and making a lot of money. They're pumping and dumping. And I don't think they realize that there's a paper trail for all these. And I have a feeling there's going to be hell to pay for some of these people that went out and did all this because they think that, the SEC doesn't regulate it, but they do. Not if the SEC doesn't regulate, then what will happen is the U.S. attorney will step in at some point. And there's going to be problems. And I think that as soon as that happens, the legitimate crypto, it's great for it. It's going to soar. And I think that needs to be cleaned out of the market.